The UFC has a wrestling problem. I'm going to tell you all about it in this video. Let's go. All right. So, I don't know if you've watched the last couple fights or if you've watched UFC at all. You've noticed that there's a growing trend of UFC, specifically headlining fights, being boring, crazy boring, where you're sitting there and you're watching it and you're going, what is this? The reason is, if you've noticed, some of the best fighters have a previous history of being dominant wrestlers. And so when they get into fights, they go to the thing that they're great at, which they should, which is wrestling. This is Khabib. This is many of the fighters that were just at the Noche event. So if you watch it and you go, what's with this like takedown stuff? That's wrestling. And the UFC was not built off of wrestling. It was built off of knockout punches. That's why we watched it. And a little bit of jiu-jitsu, but jiu-jitsu also is boring. How do I know that? If you watch the CJI event, it was literally built differently because even the best jiu-jitsu grapplers recognized, man, the ADCC is boring. When people are just lying on the ground, putting their weight, doing all this stuff, and these are extremely gifted, skilled people. I'll probably start doing jiu-jitsu soon. But you'd be lying if you didn't say jiu-jitsu is boring. Wrestling is boring. It's boring to watch. So when you have a UFC event and the best fighter is sitting there just taking someone down and laying on the ground with them and laying on top of them and wrestling, everyone that's there at the event and everyone that's watching TV is going, what are we watching this for? What is this? Why do I need to watch? Where's the big knockout punches? And you could see with Sean O'Malley, who is an awesome striker, incredible striker. The whole time you're going, come on, man, hit this guy, hit this guy. But the wrestlers are incredible at wearing you out on the ground to where you don't have as much energy. They could completely negate your ability to strike, and they don't want to strike with you because they're not great strikers. Now, people are going to hear this and go, man, you don't know what you're talking about. A lot of these wrestlers, Khabib's a great striker. They're not terrible strikers, but you'd be lying. You would totally be lying if you're going, oh yeah, you know what? In these fights, the majority of the time they want to stand up and go toe-to-toe in a striking match. Now, if you noticed the post-UFC event, even Dana White was like, man, everyone leading up to the headliner was great, except for the headliners. Why is that? I'm going to tell you. It's because the people that are working their way up to the belt are hungrier than the people that are in there that already have the belt. All right? They're not as cautious. All right? If you're going to fight for the belt, you're going to be extremely cautious. You're not going to go in there and go, hey, let me just rip the guy's head off. You're going, okay, this guy has the belt, or I want the belt. Or you're going, I got to protect my belt, so I got to be strategic. I got to be smart. What do? Go to what you know is best. Well, I'm a wrestler. What does that mean? Get him to the ground, pin him, hold him down, get as many takedowns as you can. Dodge the jabs, dodge the crosses, and get in there and take the guy down. Now, if you're trying to make it for the belt and you're trying to impress Dana and you're trying to impress these people and you want a chance, they want strikes. They want to see people get knocked out. So you'll go in there and trade blows. Especially if you're early and you've got a 3-fight contract and hey, I got to go there and impress these people. Yes, I got to win, but I need to impress these people. I got to get the fans behind me. I'm building a brand. You're not just fighting, you're also building a brand. You're going to go in there and you're going to strike. You are going to strike. Even some of the top jiu-jitsu UFC fighters will forego doing jiu-jitsu just to get some strikes early on. Alex Pereira, he's an amazing jiu-jitsu guy. He will stand up and strike. Especially leading up. He will not just take you to the ground. He is a rarity and exception, but a lot of these fighters building up to the main fight, they'll actually strike. And it's not until later that they'll start going to their jiu-jitsu or their wrestling, which they're great at. And then we have these headlining fights that are boring. Absolutely boring. So what should the UFC do about it? I'm not 100% sure. But there should be some form of a penalty for how long you stay on the ground. And some of you are going, there already is. Well, they should shorten that time. If these people are laying on the ground not doing anything, you have to remember, this is entertainment. And the main fan is not some kind of advanced jiu-jitsu expert. The majority of fans are not Joe Rogan, which is why we love Joe Rogan, because he helps us understand what's actually happening. But most people are not him. They're not going to sit and watch people rolling around on the ground and go, wow, look at that technique. That's incredible technique. The average UFC fighter is going, when is he going to knock this guy out? Let's see him go for blows. We want to see a fight. The early UFC days, you saw these amazing fights. Was there jiu-jitsu? Yes. But it wasn't the majority of the thing. The majority of the stuff in there was just absolute blow by blow, like just hitting people, crushing people, elbows to the... It was just intense. It was fighting. But now what we see is people rolling on the ground, and it is one of the more boring things you can watch, especially in the headlining fights. The UFC is getting boring, but I don't think it's going to be this way forever. I think they're going to start giving UFC contracts to strikers. So keep a lookout. All right, peace.